run meta ads for solar companies. We've got 35 clients throughout the UK. We've generated over 8 figures in combined revenue. We're currently managing 140k a month in ad spend, and that has led to over 13,000 leads generated through Perspective. In today's video, I'm going to join you with Leon. I'm going to break down all of the things that we've learned over all of that ad spend, all of those leads, and even give a real example as to why you shouldn't care about lead cost and you should care about cost per sale. Let's get right into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we're here with Jude Cornish, who's the founder of Solar on Steroids, which is the UK's leading marketing agency for solar companies. Jude was our guest on our podcast when he 28x'd his monthly revenue in just 6 months, a couple of months ago, and recently he crossed over $1 million in sales every single month for his clients. And today we're going to talk about how to scale your own agency, become the leader in your niche, and win for our own clients. So, Jude, you're the first guest we have on the show for the second time. How has your life changed in the last 4 months since we spoke?
Thank you. I mean, there's not been anything revolutionary. I would just say that we've doubled down, In fact, we have been running tests with meta lead forms just to prove to everyone that Perspective is better. We've been allocating small portions of budget to continue to say, no, this isn't just an opinion. This is like actually correct in terms of proven and backed by ad spend. So I'm not sure how many clients that we had back when we first spoke, but we're now on 35 across the country. And as of recently, we've landed some really huge ones, including one of the top 4 energy companies in the entire country. So we really are kind of leading the space in terms of advertising on Meta for solar companies in a way that actually gets them high quality leads and, most importantly, sales and revenue. So that's us basically. It's not much has changed since we first spoke.
So pretty much doubling down on what works, continuing the growth, and right now positioning yourself basically as the leader in the industry. And so Today what I would love to talk to our audience about is how they can actually use the principles that you've used, some of the frameworks to become a leader of their niche or of their industry for their own marketing agency. And let's start maybe with a quick case study that you had with one of your clients, and tell us how did it happen. You put in £1,500 in ad spend and got out 226,000 in solar and battery sales.
Yeah.
How do you even get results like that?
Yeah, pretty insane. So that client, as a caveat, is based in Guernsey. So it's a bit of an interesting market because the average order values are slightly higher than England for solar and battery systems, and there's less people to advertise to. There's only about a population of about 66,000, I think. But what that meant was we only had a finite number of people that we could advertise to, so we needed to make sure that everyone who saw the ads converted, and that we actually captured their information because you can only hit them so many times. And secondly, that the ads and creatives were extremely vast and varied because it had to have so much variety, because otherwise our frequency on Meta would have just been sky high, because there's only a population of say 60,000, maybe only 30,000 of them fit within our actual demographic. So if you're only running one ad, you can reach the entire island with about £2. So you have to make sure that there's a lot of creatives coming in continuously, and every time we launch a new ad for them, they get about 5-6 leads just instantly that day, because it's just something new that people haven't seen before. It's appealing to a slightly different demographic potentially.
That's amazing. But still you're able to get, what would that be, like 170x
150
ROI?
Yeah, so every pound they give us for ads, we give them every pound they give us, we give them £150 back essentially. And that hasn't stalled it. We were concerned, given the population size, that we'd get great results initially and then it would fatigue and tail off, but actually it's gone from strength to strength. And as I say, every time we launch a new ad, they get a fresh set of inquiries through, and their average order value keeps going higher and higher and higher as people are seeing what value they can provide basically with the systems they install.
That's absolutely amazing. And that's just one of the case studies that you've got. But I know that you have something for our audience today that will actually be a goldmine. That would be like a map or a pathway that you've built over the last months, showing exactly how you scaled with, I already had a sneak peek. That's going to be super, super tactical, breaking down all the different elements of running your own agency. So if you don't mind, let's jump straight in. Let's give our audience the nuggets.
100%, absolutely. Let me share my screen. So I think a key theme when we spoke last was our emphasis on getting results first. So we actually covered the advertising spend for our clients when we first got started, because we kind of said, look, we don't have the results to back this up. We don't necessarily have all the skills that we want to have. So let us cover the advertising spend. Let us take the risk, and you can reap the rewards when we actually get good at this. And I still hold true to that. And I think that results always come first. If you can just smash the results part, everything else will fall into place. You don't need sales coaching. You don't need some complicated appointment setter or funnel. Like, you just need to smash the results first, and people will find their way through to you. With that said, there are obviously tons and tons of things that you can do to optimize your approach and to make sure that you're capturing leads as well as possible, and kind of delivering the best service as possible as well. So anyone that's creating these perspective funnels and using them for their client campaigns or their own, there are a lot of insights in this document that we're going to go through around things that we've found, we've tested, that we've backed with data, that you'll be able to essentially deploy and implement instantly, either for one client or for 20 or 35 like us. So quick background and intro into us. So we're Solar on Steroids. We put solar businesses on steroids. Does what it says on the tin. With the help of Perspective, we've basically been able to grow to a full-time team of 4 now, and we've got a remote team of over 10. We're really proud that we're Perspective agency partners, and we're actually now running a mastermind event because the results that we've generated have kind of put us in a position where there are a lot of people looking to us for advice and for insights, and actually looking to our clients as to, how are you guys doing this? How is this network of solar installers who are all on steroids doing this and getting these insane results from their advertising campaigns? So we're actually running that mastermind on the 28th of November to share some of those insights. So without further ado, 35 clients. We've generated over 8 figures in revenue for those clients. We're currently managing about £140,000 a month in ad spend. And I actually pulled the stats. We've generated 3,500 leads in the last 30 days for our clients, to a total of 13,226 or 36. So you can see the actual rate of lead generation is increasing massively. So we're up 32% in the last 30 days as well. So the results are getting better. The conversion rates are increasing. The number of clients we're taking on is increasing. The amount that they're spending is increasing, and the amount that everyone is making is increasing. And that basically translates to roughly 150 leads a day right now through Perspective funnels.
That's incredible. That's great.
100%. And honestly, we came from, I mentioned this in the first podcast episode, we came from using Framer funnels that we'd built kind of custom. They were a bit hacky. And every other day they would break. And if I was generating 150 leads a day right now with those, I would be very, very stressed and not in a good place. So I think one of the core things for us is also the reliability of Perspective, because we know every day we can count on Perspective and the funnels to collect this information. So that's a big thing for us. Results wise, I'll whiz through this. I've done it about 100 times on sales calls. So we dropped the lead cost by almost 80% for the biggest installer in all of Ireland. And before that, they were using a very simple 4-question contact form on their website. And it was just like name, email, postcode, phone. And even so, with a 10-question Perspective funnel, we were able to beat their lead cost by almost 80%. So almost 5 times cheaper, basically, which is insane. As a result, this is what really matters. Lead cost is one thing, but it's really about cost per sale and return on investment. They are actually getting solar deals for £110 each. So I don't know what that is in USD. Let me quickly find out. $148 per solar and battery install. And these deals are worth 11,000, 12,000. So every pound they give us, we're also giving them 100 back. So
That's
insane.
incredible.
Insane return on investment. And it just goes to show that this works for local providers, but also for national ones as well.
Tell me, Jude, for comparison, what's the average, what would be the average return in the industry across all of your clients?
Average for us in terms of return on investment, we like to shoot way past 20 times return on investment. So average order value is, say, 10,000. We like to be well under £500 per deal generated, basically. And that's the metric we use to basically say, okay, this is a campaign that we can start to scale up and increase the ad spend for.
For comparison, for people who are doing back of the napkin math here, agencies across different industries, what's the average gross profit for solar as general as an industry?
About 30%, I would say, 25-30%.
That's still very good, because you're basically like you're covering below 5% of the actual revenue from the ads, so
Yes.
they can have margins up to 25-30%, instead of, if you only like 5 or 10x that would be
Yeah.
like half of their margin basically.
Exactly. We like to say it should be, and especially because we've had clients come on. I should have put this in here, but they were using lead forms before. They had an average order value of 8.5K with lead forms, and they started with us and went to Perspective. Their average order value shot up to 14,000. So not only are they selling bigger systems, they're selling them to better customers who want to pay more, who care about the quality of the work and the installation. But it is just incredible how that difference as well. So, that's almost, I think, about 60% increase in actual average order value as well. So when you look at it, as you were saying, from a gross profit perspective, we're literally flipping this on its head. If we're potentially doubling gross profit, or at least increasing it by, say, 60%, and we're only doing so for, say, 20% of what they're actually going to make in terms of gross profit, the sky really is the limit. And that's why we've got so many clients that have started on £2,000 a month in ad spend and have scaled that up to £10,000 a month and even beyond. I mean, we've got one client that's spending £45,000 a month directly to Perspective funnels. So pretty
Incredible.
insane. Yeah.
I think later in the
100%.
presentation we're going to break down exactly how you're doing that, but for now let's carry on
Yeah.
with the case studies
100%.
that I've gotten here.
With the mandatory highlight reel is what I like to call
Absolutely.
it. So AJ Renewables, this is a good example of how quickly these campaigns can get off the floor. So first 30 days, 107,000 in revenue from only 4.5K in ad spend. And they actually landed 2 deals within their first 24 hours. You can see Joe and I were actually on a run, and we had to stop to celebrate at the time when that came through. So you can see this is the kind of installation that we're generating. I think this was a 24 panel installation, and that's Ali in front of it there. And they did over 500,000 in 4 months with us, which is pretty cool. This is a great example of the quality of the leads. So we've got one client that is booking in-person surveys with 83% of the leads that we generate them. So, I mean, with lead forms, you struggle to get on the phone with 83%, let alone book a survey. So, it just goes to show, when you put the friction in place up front, the leads that actually do get through to you are high intent and potentially even ready to buy, or at least ready to have someone come to the home and do a survey and explain the systems to them. That client was actually spending more in fuel to get to the in-person survey than they were to get the lead itself, which is pretty
Incredible.
insane. Next one, we've got an installer that is, we're really proud to say, which is Renewable Installer of the Year, and their average order value is £17,000. Bearing in mind that the average order value across the whole market is probably about 8,500, 9,000. So for them to be getting 17,000 from Facebook ads is basically about 80% higher than most people would expect. This client, 40 leads in 48 hours, exclusively with video ads. This one was funny. Their first deal landed for £25,390. We were like, whoa, that's amazing. Like, let's celebrate. That's a really high deal value. Amazing first deal, but it won't happen again. Don't get used to it. This isn't the standard. And then their second deal came in, 25,600. £35. And we're like, okay, whatever you're doing, carry on, feel free.
Right.
It's obviously working. That's the one that you mentioned, 226K from 1.5K in ad spend. Our biggest residential project that's come through the ads has been £61,000. And actually we consistently get commercial leads that come through the ads, do off residential ads. So I think our biggest commercial was actually 110 that just kind of accidentally came through the ads, for a client. This one, 32K in a day on an account that was only spending 2K a month. So you should work up the ROI on that day. It's pretty cool. And then we've also got Wix, which is one of the biggest companies in the UK in the home improvement sector, saying that we basically blow every other provider out of the water there. So, and we came in, actually, this is interesting because they were spending upwards of 6 figures a month on pay-per-lead sources. So this is where someone generates the lead on their own ad account and then sells it to people. They were buying a lot of them. We came in, we ran the ads on their own account with them getting on camera and using Perspective funnel. And within the first 3 weeks, we dropped the cost per pitch by 40% for them across any other lead source. So within 3 weeks, outperformed everyone else by at least 40%. So pretty insane there. And then we've got some video testimonials as well. But that's a great example. So 11K to 14K average order value because of Perspective and the types of advertisements we run. Got some other ones here. There you go. So yeah, that's all the results and basically the mandatory highlight reel for you.
One thing I want to pinpoint in here, in the beginning, you said you have 35 clients. And
Yes.
just to kind of prove the point that you are the leading industry, the leading marketing agency in the industry, you basically shown like 15 case studies or
Oh
close to
yeah.
that.
Oh
So just to make a point, for most agencies, when they're showing a case study, it's usually the one or two clients out of say 10 or 20 they've worked with that they were actually able to generate great results for. And you're showing me like 50 of them. I'm like, you're not running 150 clients. You only have 35 and we're able to
yeah.
generate half of them some crazy results. So that's absolutely amazing.
Genuinely, I get on sales calls and I say, pick any of these logos and I will get you a phone number and you can speak to that client. We have results that are so good that I will let a prospect speak to anyone they can see here. They could literally just point their finger and go, yep, I want to speak to that guy. And I'll go, okay, here's Lewis's number. Go check it out. He did 120K in August with us. Yeah, enjoy the conversation. It is that reliable.
At last time when we spoke, you haven't lost a client in 2 years. Is that still true, or have you lost a client?
We unfortunately have lost the client, and
Too bad.
we've got a couple that have paused the advertisements and they want to relaunch them in a few months. But yeah, we still went a full 2-year stint without losing one, which is pretty cool.
It's still like 1 out of 36 for churn, like for any agency. Isn't that like the craziest number you've heard in the last couple
Yeah,
of
I
months?
think it's about 97% success rate. Yeah.
It's
And I
incredible.
won't go into the reasons for the 3%, but if I did, I think you'd probably understand.
Fair. There's also definitely some process, and maybe before we jump back to the chart, tell me, how are you verifying the kinds of clients that you want to work with? Because I would assume you won't be able to generate these kinds of results for anyone.
Yeah, 100%. So we actually have quite a high friction sales process ourselves. So I'm constantly assessing the client. Firstly, sounds silly and fluffy, but on ambition. We only
Mm.
want to work with people that genuinely want to scale their business. There are a lot of businesses that do very well by just doing 4 installations a month, every month. They don't want to do more because they'd have to take on more staff. They'd have to, do certain things to their operations. We don't really want to work with those businesses because they're not going to get a return on investment with us. The only companies that get a return on investment with us are all of these companies who want to go from 4 to 8 to 12 to 20. Like with paid advertising, it's one of the most expensive ways to acquire that first customer because it's cold, they're unfamiliar with your business, there's no referral, and you're competing with a lot of other people. So to do it effectively, you really need to decide, okay, this is something I want to hammer and I want to scale. So ambition is the first one. Second one for us, which I'll go through in a second, is our advertising style is very much based on videos. And we were the first to kind of pioneer that in the solar agency space. So I'm assessing whether I think the person I'm speaking to is actually going to be good on camera. Obviously, you can practice. Practice makes perfect. And I'd urge people to, if they're not, if I perceive that they're not going to be good on camera, I'd urge them to go record their own videos to just get practice, get familiar with the process. But for us, when we do the first shoot, that first shoot is the content that we use for all of the ads. And if I'm not confident that person is going to perform on that first shoot, then there's a real risk that our ads will suffer, which unfortunately is kind of what happened with that 3%. So it's really important that we actually sign people who buy into the way that we do things, because there's plenty of other ways you can get customers. You could do so many other different advertising methods. But if you buy into how we do it, and I think that you're going to be a good fit for that method, then we're off to the races, really. The other thing that just makes our lives so much easier is that each and every one of these customers has absolutely fantastic reputations. They really care about the results that they get for their customers and how they treat them. Because if we run ads and let's say one company like has 2.2 stars on Google, what's going to happen is we might generate really good leads, but as soon as that prospect checks the company out on Google, they're going to see 2.2 stars, and then they're not going to close any deals. They're going to say that the leads aren't good from the ads, but in reality, it's because no one trusts them. So that's why I think our average across the board is kind of like 4.9 star for all of our clients. So those are the main things. Like we've positioned ourselves to attract companies that do really good work because of our approach, how we come out to site, we film their installations. If you don't do good work and you leave the customer's property in a state, the installation isn't done well, then you're not going to want to put that on camera and for us to go to 6-7 of your installs and showcase that to the world. Whereas all of these guys are desperate for their work to be seen. So it perfectly aligns how we've kind of positioned ourselves and our style.
I've heard this advice from many agency gurus in the last couple of weeks. Basically, for those agencies that manage to become this niche leader, pretty much all of them just work with winners, which is exactly what we're
Yes.
doing. Like it's like the Matthew principle, right? Those that have everything shall be given to those that don't have everything
Yeah.
shall be taken away from them. So you're helping the winners win even better, which makes the entire industry more profitable. So look, that's a great success ratio. That's a great case study breakdown. What else do you have for us today?
100%. Let's dive in. So I'm going to take you through this whole thing. Hopefully I've got enough time. So this is basically like a summary of some of the key things and learnings that we've found from generating 13,000 leads through Perspective. And I've tried to make each one as simple as possible. What we do, our process, just so you've got the context, is we run value-based video ads that go through to a qualifying funnel built on Perspective, which has roughly 8-10 questions kind of thing. And then when that lead is generated, when they enter their details into here, they get sent a WhatsApp video automatically that importantly has the same person throughout the entire process. So here you've got Abdi on his video ad, you've then got Abdi on his funnel, you've then got Abdi on the WhatsApp video that gets sent to them. So there's continuation and trust being built at every single step. If we were to use a meta lead form, you would lose all of the opportunities to build trust in the central area here. And you would have to go straight from the ad through to the WhatsApp video, which is basically a massive missed opportunity. So that's the process. That's how we do it. But within here, every single one of these steps has been meticulously analyzed and critiqued and tested in order for us to basically create a monster funnel that is used very similarly by 35 different solar installers. So the first thing that is the king, and you can see my little crown here, it is the most important thing of any funnel. It is the headline. And for us, it's actually really interesting. We used to test the headline like every other week because we only had a few clients and they were only spending a smaller amount of money on the ads. So we could be quite confident to just do a test and then, roll that out across everyone, see what happens, and then implement or not implement. The problem is we've now got £140,000 per month going to these funnels, which equates to about £5,000 per day. If we change this headline on across all of these funnels, we could see a massive increase in leads or a massive decrease in leads, which essentially could be thousands and thousands of pounds in ad spend. So the headline is something that we only change and test if we really deem necessary. And there's a few things in this headline that we have kind of thought and tested. So firstly, we used to say get, but now we say arrange. The reason we don't say get a quote is because people think that they're going to get something just by entering their details. So like an instant price. And the problem with that is that they give fake details, fake emails, fake phone numbers because they think they're just going to get it regardless, right? So we swapped get for arrange. That's the first thing. So you can see every word counts with the headline. Next, we've got free, just making sure there's no cost involved. That's a little bit of a tricky one because it does impact quality slightly, but we found that the increase in throughput outweighs the slight decrease in quality. Product, this is a variable in Perspective. So really interesting with Perspective, you can use the UTM fields of a URL to feed information into a variable that you can then show on the funnel. So if we've got a ad that features a battery, then we'll put the UTM variable for product as battery. If we've got an ad that features solar and battery, we'll put solar and battery. So we're customizing and personalizing the page based on the ad that someone came from to make it as consistent and appropriate as possible for that individual. Then 30 seconds time. So this is again consistent across all of these. We want people to know that this process doesn't take too long, and that they can give their details quite quickly, even though we're going to try and get a lot of information from them. So yeah, even just that headline, I can pull out 4 or 5 different things, which is why, it's so important. And most of our tests in the early days were literally just on this headline here. So there you go. Next up is the image. So we always use a unique selling point focused image. And that can be really different by client, but we always use an image. So this first one, the USP for this company is scale. You can see they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vans just in this one photo. They've maybe got 20 installers there as well. So their value that they're trying to convey to the customer and their primary selling point is their scale, their size, they're established, they've got process. Whereas this customer here, this is a team of, I think, about 4. So they don't have that scale. That's not their USP. Their USP instead is that they are very friendly. They've got a smaller team that cares, that is bespoke and local, and they install a lot of this battery here, which is called a SIG Energy. So they're focusing on the brand and they're leveraging that brand in that image. Now, even more interesting is that most of their ads as a result feature these SIG Energy products. So showcasing that on the image is also really helpful because it aligns throughout the process. And in fact, a lot of their ads were filmed at this location here. So someone sees the ad featuring that location, then they see an image that aligns perfectly to it. Then this one, or these two actually, these companies are really fantastic companies and they've won loads of awards. So this one is a huge award, Which Renewable Installer of the Year. This one, they've won about 5 different awards and they made a point of showing them in that image there and showing the happy team all smiling there. So the point is we're trying to pick what are people going to work with this company for? Why is someone choosing this business? And then showing that as obviously as possible in an image, because a picture tells 1,000 words. So that's the second thing that we've really optimized. Next thing is optimizing above the fold, or ATF. So this is a great example, and you might be wondering, why are these images so narrow? Really weird. It's not 9x6. It's not 16x9. They're all really flat, right? The reason for that is so that we don't push the call to action buttons and the labels off of the bottom of the screen. If we do that, we've seen literally a 40% drop off because people just will not scroll. If you can't show someone in the top fold what they need to do and why they should inquire with you, it's very likely you will lose them. So if you lose these yes and no's for do you own your home, it's very unlikely people will scroll down to answer them. So that's a huge one. Next, A/B testing imagery. So this is a great example. This image I thought would perform really well. It's got Eddie, he's really happy, he's showcasing, he's pointing at the solar install there. Problem is, it's potentially a little bit unprofessional for a really high order value product. And what we found was when we tested it against the very same solar panels that he was pointing at, but just an image of that's really nice from the drone, we got a 5% higher conversion rate. So a huge impact to conversion rate, cost per lead, cost per sale, etc., just by changing the image that was on the front. That's how much impact this can have. And again, it's all thanks to Perspective because we can run these A/B tests really easily. So that A/B test that we set up that's probably going to yield our client basically half the cost per lead took me all of about 30 seconds to set up, which you wouldn't be able to do on a more custom landing page. Next one is you should be optimizing for interaction and for people actually starting the form. The highest drop-off we found is from people essentially just not clicking anything, not doing anything on the page, right? So what a lot of people do with their landing page, and I've seen it firsthand, is that they'll start with the contact information. So they'll start with a page like this that says full name, email address, phone number, maybe postcode, etc. And the problem with that is for someone to do this page and move to the next step, they need to tap or input like maybe 50 times on their phone. They've got to type their name, they've got to type their email, they've got to type their phone number. Whereas with our first page, do you own your home? One tap. We are reducing the friction as much as humanly possible for someone to just interact with this page, because once they've interacted once, there is a very, very high likelihood that they will continue to interact throughout the form. And we can then get way more information from them on the service, on the appeal, on the spend, etc., etc.
This is actually something to interrupt you here. That's something we're
Mhm.
seeing continuously across basically all of our customers, which is the quiz funnels, as we're calling them, where basically you have super simple opt-in page and you just
Yeah.
start interacting as if you were interacting with a mobile app. That's
Mhm.
basically kicks in some sunk cost fallacy mechanism in people's
Yes.
brains that they just want to follow through, and really not many drop off up until the contact input. So it's
Exactly.
very,
It,
very
it's exactly
positive.
what we're seeing. You can see here, I mean, even still with this approach, we're still getting 54% drop off, but that's normal. And in fact, that's pretty good for us. Then you can see when they choose their service, 98% stay, appeal, 97% stay, spend, 95% stay, even postcode, which is a typable question. So you'd expect quite a high drop off on that, 87% still stay. And it's only then when we get to contact that you get another big drop off, as you said. So super, super important that you basically optimize the first page and the last page. And you make it as easy as possible for someone to get started.
Your ads must also match the landing page very well because you only have 54% drop off on the first page. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that means
Yeah.
46% people actually do follow through and take action, which
Yeah.
is almost unheard of.
100%. So, few things that we do in order to achieve that. In a lot of these ads, the last thing that someone says will be click the button below, give us a few details, and we'll be in touch as soon as we can. The reason we say that in a very specific order is it tells them exactly what's going to happen at each step. So, there's no surprises. So, if we just said click the button below and we'll be in touch shortly, there's no mention of the fact they have to fill in details. So there's going to be confusion. If I just click this button, am I going to get a call? No, that's not what happens. What we also do is actually quite often on these video ads, for the last kind of 5 seconds or so, we will actually show the funnel in the ad itself.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then someone sees that and they click through, they see the funnel itself from the video, and it's exactly what they expect because they've already seen it. So when they land on it, it's like, okay, yeah, I know what I need to do. Yeah, really important. It's a really good point.
I think that'll be the highlight of the entire podcast if I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
because you're just giving a masterclass, if anything, in clear communication. Like in the
Yes.
first podcast, you said like when I asked you, like, what's the trick? What's the secret? What's one underutilized thing? You said honesty.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honesty obviously comes from being able to convey the kind of information that you want in a truthful manner to the person. And if you're making ads so that they convey this kind of information, then they go into the funnel and they see what they wanted to see. Like you're micro building trust along every single step of the funnel, and it seems like to me that's why we're able to get a lot of these
100%.
wins. So amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that point around honesty is conveyed here as well. We'd get a higher conversion rate if we use the word get. It's shorter, it's simpler to say than arrange, it's simpler language, but it's not true because they don't get a quote within 30 seconds. They have to arrange their
Right.
quote. So we have made that trade-off to ensure that the lead quality remains high, even if we could get a higher conversion rate by using the G word, basically.
Hey, it's Leon here. Thanks for hanging with us. If you want to create mobile-first, interactive, and personalized lead gen sales funnels with market-leading conversion rates in just 30 minutes, we want to give you something special. Because you're listening to today's episode, you can get Perspective free of charge for 14 days. Link to sign up is in the description below. Right,
So
let's carry on.
let's carry on. So this one's interesting. Use useless questions and force social proof. So everyone's probably thinking, why on earth would you ask a useless question? Why would you ask a question that you don't care about the answer to? And I'll break that down. So this client here, again, I mentioned he's won Renewable Installer of the Year 2025. That is a huge deal. In the UK, Which is a really big brand. And the fact they've won that is a huge deal for trust, for social proof, everything like that. So we want to make sure there is no way that someone submits this form without knowing that fact. And, we've got it on, I think I showed up here, we've got it on the first page. We've got the logo for it, but it's very easy. Someone might not have spotted it. They might not have registered it. Even if they saw it, they might not have registered it in kind of consciously. So we want to make sure there's zero way they can get through without seeing this. So what we do is we just ask them, did you find us from the Which Renewable Installer of the Year award? of course they didn't find us from that because they came through the ad.
Right.
But what we're saying is we're telling them without telling them that we won the Rich Installer of the Year award. So they have to answer, most people answer no, because they didn't come from that. But at the same time, they're like, oh, they won that award? Oh, fantastic. Okay. Like, and then that goes downstream. That even if we get, say, 5% drop off on this question, that means that the calls are going to be way better. There's going to be higher intent. People are then going to actually convert to an appointment faster. They're then going to close it as a deal. So it's all about actually considering the larger pipeline rather than just conversion rate or cost per lead.
Is the proof here false because they didn't find you there, or is the proof false because you can play the same question technically across all the different clients?
Yeah, so we couldn't use this exact same question for other clients because they wouldn't have won that same award. But the idea is that we know they didn't come from the Which award.
Right.
Yeah, we already know that. So we're asking a question that we don't need to know the answer to. We know most people are going to say no, but we're asking the question to tell them something without telling them it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like this kind of a subconscious angle. The other way you can do it is with a hold page. So we actually use a hold page for this client where we're just showing a really nice picture of him and a team member. And we say, did you know that our average customer saves over £1,000 a year on their bills? And someone has to read and digest that because we've held them there for 4 seconds. But we've got 0% drop off from that. So we're just forcing them to digest this information to be more bought in. And the reason we've put this page, we've put it just before our contact page. See here? So, and we've intentionally put it there because we know that this page is the highest drop off. So we want to make sure that they're the warmest, they've got the highest pain before they hit this contact page because we need to get them as many through that contact page as we can.
Don't think that it's stressed enough, and I don't think anyone's brought it up before. If you think about it, what you're doing on this very page is inside your perspective funnel, you're running a micro ad.
Yes,
That's like
it.
a tooltip.
Yes.
That's incredible.
100%. Yeah. So we are aware that they've already answered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions for us. So it's about time we gave them something back to ensure that they answer the 8th, which is the most important.
That's crazy. Yeah, like you're compressing retargeting to happen twice in one ad.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, carry on, dude. Like, preach.
Yeah, pretty cool. So that's not even all of them. So next up is about optimizing and personalizing the contact page. So now we've optimized everything up to that point. Now we want to make sure that on the page we've got as much to try and reap every drop out of the people that hit it, because we know that's our highest drop off page. So we asked previously, using our funnel, what appeals to you the most. So in the text we say you're one step away from what appeals to you the most. So maybe they answered saving money. So we say you're one step away from saving money and reducing your home's 1K to 1.5K energy bill. So that when that actually is written as text, it looks a bit weird here because of the two variables, but it basically reads, you're one step away from saving money and reducing your home's over £2,000 energy bill. So it's very, very personalized to them in that one short paragraph, and brings in the answers that they gave before. The other piece is, and it's easy to miss, but we bring in the product that we mentioned earlier, where we used the variable in the headline. We bring that in again in the CTA for the contact page. So what they answered on earlier in the form, what are you looking for? Solar and battery, help me decide. We bring that into the CTA. And the other thing is, we before, this is the first page here. So this product variable comes from a URL. It comes from a URL that we've actually set to be in the ad itself, like for people to go to the funnel. So that one is just from the URL. It's what we've assumed from the ad that they watched. As I said before, maybe it's a battery ad, for example. So it's arrange your free battery quote in 30 seconds. This one is different because since then, we've asked them, what are you looking for? Because they might have come from a battery ad, but they actually want solar and battery. So instead of using the product variable that we had from the URL, we've got new information. So we would bring in that scenario, the solar and battery variable into here. So get my solar and battery quote. So again, it's just every little piece that we can do to ensure that we get the highest throughput on this page. And those efforts, as a result, we get over half of the people actually submit their details on that funnel. Where before we've had funnels that only 10-20% actually submit their details. There's a massive drop off. So
incredible.
Yeah, a huge increase. The next one is about being creative about how you disqualify people. So a lot of people will do, for example, they could use this question: if their energy bill is under £1,000, they would disqualify them because they don't have a high enough pain, or then solar and battery can't help them as much as others, right? But that's one level of disqualifying that uses conditional logic in the form. Fine, that works. You can do that to kind of segment your leads. We use a much more creative way of disqualifying, where we don't actively disqualify, but we tell people who we're looking for. So in this example here, we've got this image up at the top, which shows people what creative low carbon, the client, what their service area is. We can show them that they will always service this area, but sometimes they go out this far as well for bigger installations. Now, what if you've got someone over here? They're going to see this and they're going to go, oh, that's a shame. I can't get service from creative low carbon. Let me drop off. I'm going to leave now. And we've got rid of a lead that creative low carbon can't service in the first place. But this is where it gets really interesting. What if you've got someone that is right there, right next to creative low carbon? They go, oh, I'm literally right next to these guys. I'm within their service area. I can be serviced. Let me put my postcode in because I've matched this criteria. So we've basically reverse engineered encouraging the right people to put their postcode in and carry on through the funnel. And as a result, on this client, we've only had 3% drop off for a typable question that is asking for their details, their postcode, basically. So huge upside on just that one image that we've slotted in, and it doesn't even push the text field below the fold of the page. So massive upside for that. The final one is using bigger spenders and accumulated data to test faster. So we've got a real advantage because we've got 35 clients all in solar that are all using the same funnel structure. What we can do is assimilate the data from all 35 and test far quicker and have much more data to back up our decisions. For example, this client here over the last 4 weeks has generated 1,000 leads. This client here has generated 100 leads over the past 4 weeks. If we were to just test using this one, we'd have to wait 10 times longer to reach statistical significance on the test. Whereas if we assimilate the data for both of these, we can test 10 times faster. And then you maximize that to 35 clients, you can test 35 times faster, hypothetically, So I think this is where being a niche down agency that really just understands one market very, very well is such an advantage, because I can say to someone, every time we sign a new client, your results get better as opposed to us getting distracted and having more people to service, because we've got more data, more insights, which is huge. So there you go. I think there's the kind of 9 or 10 different insights for the funnels there. Hopefully that was useful in some way. I've got another little case study to break down, but hopefully those were good.
I think I know that we're conscious of time. We only have a couple of more minutes left together, but just the tips that you shared here for anyone who's really looking to grow their agency, I think you lay down exactly what it takes, which is every single data point they're collecting, every single piece of a creative and funnel, it just needs to be congruent with the entire sequence. You just need to be congruent with your message and be able to convey it to the visitors, and then you're able to get better results than others, and then you're able to sign more clients, and then you're able to work with the clients they want to work with, and then it's only accumulating, it's only getting better faster. There you go.
100%. I think I'll be able to get through this one in 5 minutes. If you time me, I'll race through.
Let's go.
So stop optimizing on cost per lead. This is the biggest thing. If I have to choose something, last time I said the biggest thing is honesty. This time I'm going to go hard on stop optimizing cost per lead. We've got some of the biggest clients in all of the UK and Ireland. So OVO Energy, top 4 energy company. Activate, biggest installer in all of Ireland. Wix, there you can see this is us shooting with the Wix. They've got 250 odd stores. Duracell Energy, one of the biggest manufacturers in the space. And when you work with these clients, you start to realize that it's not just about getting them as many leads as possible. That's half the battle. You really need to be getting them sales. They need to be making a financial return on investment from your advertising efforts and from working with you. So I've got a quick example that is kind of anonymized data, and it's kind of been rounded, but it's fairly realistic, of lead forms versus Perspective. So with lead forms, you should be getting a cheaper cost per lead than Perspective. At least in our experience for getting solar and battery quotes, it is likely you'll get cheaper leads with lead forms. The reasons that you're going to get cheaper leads is that with Perspective, you've got a lot of friction intentionally, a lot of qualification intentionally. There's no autofill, so someone has to put their contact details in manually, so there's a higher chance that you actually get right contact details instead of something they gave Facebook 10 years ago. And they have to leave the platform to actually do this stuff, right? So there's a lot of reasons why your cost per lead is higher, but I'm here to tell you that that is a good thing. Your cost per lead should be higher. So when this actually goes down the pipeline, down the funnel, let's look at cost per call, right? So 100 lead form leads will probably get you something like 50 calls, because half of them have got wrong phone numbers. People's kids filled them in. Maybe they're super elderly and they just tapped on something. They didn't know what they were doing. They don't actually care about the service you're offering. So 50% dropped off from lead to call. With Perspective, we've got clients that are literally as high as 89% getting on the phone with the leads. So they have an 89% success rate of receiving a lead and actually having a conversation with that lead. So immediately off the bat, you can see that when you look at the cost per call, you can see my badly drawn phone there. The cost per call for lead forms is £24 versus £22.20. So when you're looking at a cost per lead, 66% more expensive. Cost per call, 7.5% cheaper already. But this only gets worse, because when you actually consider the cost of staff, this is one of our real clients. This is SolarFast. Look at all the people here. Look at how many of them there are. If they have to spend twice as long on the phone, they need 2 times more staff, which means they need to pay the salaries for an extra 20, 30, 40 people, which equals a whole lot of this money. And when you work with these bigger businesses, they're not just trying to get cheaper leads. They're trying to actually think, okay, for the £10,000 I spend, how much am I going to make, right? So with lead forms, 80% more call attempts are probably like needed. 80% more staff are needed to actually get the same volume out of these leads, right? So because you're going to need to generate 60% more leads, 66% more leads to match Perspective, right? So then you go even further. You look at the cost per survey. So when the client actually gets on the phone with these 50, probably only about 8 are going to convert to an actual in-person appointment, because the leads are of a worse quality. They went through far less friction to actually fill out the form and to actually give their details. So you're only getting 8 appointments out of those 50. Whereas, because there's more friction and qualification with Perspective, your 90 calls that you got earlier for £22.20 each, you're going to get 45 appointments out of that. We've literally got clients that are booking 60, 70% of their calls in for an in-person survey for solar. So look at the difference already. 8 versus 45 with the exact same number of leads. Then you look at cost per appointment. So 120 with lead forms, £44.40 with Perspective. And these are numbers that are actually realistic that we've seen in our clients. I mean, the client that's getting deals for £110 is even lower than this, right? Finally, if you even consider it a fair playing field, once someone is in the home for an in-person appointment, let's say it's 25% close rate. That means from your 8 appointments, you're going to get 2 sales. From your Perspective 45 appointments, you're going to get 11.25 sales. Let's just say it's 11 sales, right? Which means finally what the people and the bigger clients and even the smaller clients actually care about, but maybe they don't know enough to actually tell you this is what they want, rather than just saying we need more leads and we need cheaper leads. Your lead form cost per sale is £480. Your Perspective cost per sale is £177.60. So yes, you had 66% more expensive leads, but you have 63% cheaper deals. And that is what really matters. You have to go off the financial returns that your clients can actually receive. And finally, to map it out, you've got my amazingly drawn solar panels here. You can see that if this client were to spend £10,000 on their ads on lead forms, they would get 21 sales. From Perspective, they would get 51 sales at an average order value of £12,000. They would net an additional £420,000 by using Perspective. And that is the message you have to understand if you're going to generate leads. It is lead quality rather than lead cost. Thank you very much. It has been Jude Cornish from Solar on Steroids, and I hope you have enjoyed.
Jude, that's amazing. And let's roll it back to what you said in the in the very beginning, which was for
Yeah.
one of your clients. The order value itself was even higher by using
Yes.
Perspective versus by using meta lead forms because of the kinds of people that would go through it. So you could
100%.
go even one step further and map out exactly what's the return on every single dollar,
Well,
on every single pound
exactly.
spent.
Like if you were to say, in fact, the AOV is 30% higher, that means from Perspective you will have generated a roughly £1 million, which means the actual difference here would be roughly 750,000 times, i.e., 4 times
Correct.
better with Perspective.
That's your data test across 35 clients. It's not some one or two case studies put together for the best results.
No.
That's your averages. That's
Yeah.
from
Well,
generating over a
exactly.
million
Yeah.
pounds a month. Dude, that's absolutely crazy. What you brought to us here. I think you gave a pure masterclass for everyone and anyone who wants to take becoming the best agency in their space seriously, because this is the blueprint, guys. Like that's how you do it. I'll actually cut it here because, man, that's the next time we'll definitely have you again on the podcast, but I think that was super valuable to the audience.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Thanks for watching our podcast. Because we've got this far, and if you found the episode valuable, feel free to join our school community where we share more insights around marketing, funnel building, and growing your business. Most of our guests are in the community and will be happy to answer your questions. You can also propose who the next guest will be. Link to join the community is in the description below.